C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
Good morning, and how are you doing? It's Wednesday, the 8th day of March, 2023. It's International Women's Day. Happy International Women's Day from wherever you are locked in from this morning. And thank you very much for choosing the Situation Room as the way to start your day. We are live on SpiceFM, on KTN Home, and we also live stream the show on YouTube and Facebook. We have two guests who have joined us to have this conversation about International Women's Day. Of course, we know the first question is, why the 8th of March? We'll ask them. Fath Wayua is a gender program officer at We Effect East Africa. And ChristineOkeno is from UN Women Kenya. She's a specialist on ending violence against women and girls. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning,
Good morning, Eric.
Karibuni sana to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante.
Thank you.
What you're sitting on, Christine, is the hot seat of the Situation Room.
It doesn't feel that hot, but thanks for the warning. So far, so good.
Wayua,
Yes.
just by association, that is also the hot seat. That's where Ndu normally sits. Ndu is away for the rest of the week.
Thank you.
But she said, ukikuja, tukupatia kiti yake.
Asante.
Karibu sana. To welcome you both, City has the day's proverb. It's from Rwanda.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week are from the country of Rwanda. This one is a simple, straightforward proverb. The guest is always the prisoner of the host.
The guest is always the prisoner of?
Of the host.
What do you get from that, Christine? What do you think?
I'm
Rwandis
actually
were saying?
going to ask him to expound on what he means by being
Let's
a
start
prisoner.
with you. When you hear it, it's a proverb. What's your interpretation?
That I'm at your mercy.
That's number one.
That's what I get. But hopefully you are favorable hosts and amiable. So it is nothing to be scared. Being your prisoner, I hope it's something pleasant.
Faith, what's your interpretation of it?
Still the same. I'm here at your mercy also. And I'm also, of course, you are relying so much on me also.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But then, by coming up with this proverb, what do you think they were trying to say? What is that deeper meaning?
In fact, the question I want to ask them is, when the Rwandese came up with this proverb, you think they were at a radio station or a media house
And they were hosts.
and they were discussing International Women's Day.
I doubt it. What?
I don't think so.
So, what do you think they were referring to? Was it not more of a social situation where people are visiting? Yes.
Yeah.
Now, traditionally, you are at your best behavior when you visit.
Definitely.
When you have children, they are warned in advance
Not these
We
days,
are
though.
visitors.
at the risk of death.
Not these days, though.
When they go to the visitors, they keep quiet. Okay? And they speak only when they're spoken to, but children never obey.
We used to obey that, of course, visitors come, say hi, you disappear. But these days, not so much.
What happens these days? Visitors come, the children are jumping on the chairs
And pulling the visitors' hair.
and removing their glasses,
And removing their glasses.
And joining the conversations as well.
Yes.
contributing.
Yes.
Contributing.
Yes.
But think of eating when you're being served food. Let's say we talked about chicken at the beginning of the show. When you're served a piece that you don't particularly like and you're a guest, do you tell them, Aish, Nani, this one?
How?
No. No. Definitely no.
You
When
keep
you go to Rome, you'll be like Romans.
you keep quiet.
And you say thank you.
And even tell them, in
you
fact,
devour it.
this is my favorite piece.
The favorite, yeah.
Yes. And now you've been given the clause. You look at the clause and you wonder, now this one, where do I start eating this one?
Yeah, now we get it.
Yes.
So behave. when you go to visit.
Yes, definitely.
Ladies, today is International Women's Day. Why the 8th of March? Start with your Faith.
March 8th, globally, is a day where we celebrate women and girls over the world. We usually take stock of the milestone and the progress as a globe we've been able to do in trying to promote gender equality, empowerment of women and girls. It's also an opportunity also to share the challenges of women and girls are facing towards enhancing or realizing gender equality. But also, it's also another opportunity where we continue reaffirming this journey towards realizing gender equality. So it's a day set aside every year so that we celebrate our achievements, we reaffirm our women and girls, and also we call for action for more interventions and more actions towards enhancing gender equality. Yes.
Is there a specific reason why the 8th and not the 7th or the 9th? Christine?
Not really, but just to also expound on what my colleague here has said, and also say that, yes, the day has been chosen as 8th month, but the whole month of March, we call it the International Women's Month, where we take stock of the progress, as Faith has said, what women have made, what are the great strides, how far have we come, what is setting us back, and what further can we do to ensure that we reach where we are supposed to reach in terms of achieving gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls worldwide, without leaving any woman behind, taking into consideration that women are not a homogeneous group. There are those nuances that maybe as we are empowering women and towards achieving gender equality, ensure that those who are disadvantaged for various reasons that are at the risk of being left farthest behind for whatever reasons are also being brought along, so that we don't have other women moving steps ahead while others are continuously being disadvantaged and remaining behind. We work as a team together. So while we take 8th March as the day, the International Women's Day, we actually expound it and hog the whole of the month of March and say it's International Women's Month, just to celebrate women and the strides and women of all categories and globally as well.
Where is the UN headquarters? It's in New York, isn't it?
Yes.
There's social labor movement in the US. One of the things that happened on this very 8th day in 1957, that was a year before I was born, women who worked in a clothing factory decided to protest and they decided to march. And what they were fighting for was shorter working hours and a pay that was equal to what the men were being paid. Now, that began this movement of yours, because it had not been done before, ever. Remember, we lived in a time, there was a time when even women didn't work in industries. And when they worked, they were not only underpaid, they were underprivileged. And those are the eras where child labor was also accepted. So it's the protest, visible, loud, marching, large numbers on this particular day. And they said, no, this isn't happening. We work long hours. These fellows work short hours, they get better pay. We want shorter hours and we want better pay.
Same pay.
Yes.
So it brought to the fore the whole activism about equality.
Yes.
About rights.
Yes. Yes. But where I'm heading with this, because I'm thinking that was the day and it was marked by this particular event. The thing that has always been on my mind when I listen to the talks around gender equality is, in an African context, how do we fit it in? Because in the international context, I understand what is being spoken of. But, okay, let me reverse the question. What are the inequalities that women face in an African context? That's the question I'm actually asking. Because to ask for this equality, it means you are rectifying something that isn't quite right. So what are the inequalities?
If you allow me to start, then the Faith can continue. A lot of inequalities still exist in terms of be it equal access to resources. We still know, for instance, in Kenya, even if you look at the recent Kenya demographic and health survey, land ownership, women are still greatly disadvantaged. So equal access and use of resources, still inequality exists there. In terms of access and to education, women and girls are still lagging behind, and this also affects the opportunity that they're able to get, be it in employment or in terms of businesses, and the skills that they gain in terms of education. And even if they have that access, that those existing norms or cultural beliefs and biases that maybe will, to some extent, affect how far they can go in terms of the career choices they make, the kind of the job market they're able to go into. And then also we do have the increasing burden, the burden of care work, that women and girls are often disproportionately the ones who are taking a lot of this care work at home. So that one also affects the participation in the society, participation in the public life and leadership. So those are the kind of inequalities that for us in the African context are still very much in the limelight, so that it does not look like inequality, maybe if the match started in the US, as you mentioned, that it is not relevant to us in an African context. How do we contextualize it in Kenya and say that these issues are still relevant to us, and this is the equality that we need to fight for instance, in Kenya, as a people of Kenya, where women and girls are still lagging behind. But also I leave it to my colleague to expound further on other areas.
Thank you so much. There are so many inequalities women are facing in Africa, and also in Kenya, in our own context. For example, when it comes to women participation in decision making at all levels, starting at even at the family level, going to the institutions, maybe where they are either engaged as members, maybe of organizations, in workplaces. There are also a lot of women being left out in key decision-making positions and levels. When you look at the workplaces, for example, and these days women are also educated, but you realize some of the top managerial positions still are yet dominated, majority by men. So there's that parity when it comes to women occupying those key positions in organizations, and also taking up leadership position in many of the organizations. When it comes to issues of control over resources, she talked about the access, but there is also the issue of control of the benefits. If I take a woman who is a farmer, she's much engaged in the production, much of her time in labor, marketing, but when it comes now to assessing the benefit from the farm, she's left out, maybe in decision making, and she might also not realize how much was fetched, and she's not even involved in the decision making of how that money is going to be used. So there are so many avenues where we are as women left behind, and this causes a lot of inequalities.
But as we talk about all those things that you've raised, and they are valid points,
yes,
is the situation in 2023 the same as the situation in 1983?
Definitely not.
I mean, if we talk about control of the resources, are you telling me that today's woman is actually participating in putting bread on the table, but not deciding how many slices she's going to take?
The situation has really changed when you compare like a decade ago. And this is because of a lot of efforts of so many players in this field. We as also development workers, as experts in that field, we are doing quite a lot in terms of empowering the communities, empowering the people at the households, and other players, starting from the private sector, the government, and also the other avenues where women are getting enlightened and empowered, going to school, getting education, getting awareness and skills, and these has really improved the situation. There's a lot of advocacy also around that area in all platforms, in the media, also in other platforms where generally the community, not only women and girls, but also men and boys, everybody is involved in this journey to make sure that the situation of women and girls change. Yes.
So what remains as a sticking point now, today?
I would say a lot of progress especially has been made in terms of the legal and policy framework, and especially in Kenya. We've come a long way in terms of our law on equality, starting from the constitution, which thereafter had a ripple effect on a number of laws to ensure that women and girls are on the same playing field, be it in terms of ownership of resources, access to finances. We have a lot of affirmative action funds that I'm sure you might be aware of a few of them, and the laws and the implementation of these laws. But what is still holding us back for me, in my own view, I would say, is still the sociocultural beliefs, you know. I always say that the fact that somebody is educated does not automatically erase the biases and the beliefs and the norms that you grew up with. It is not easy to change what you consider or what you are brought up with as the norm. If, for instance, in your community does not or frowns upon a certain behavior, for instance, it is very hard. Yes, of course, there are those instances where somebody can be an outlier and defy certain things. But despite the education level, at times you find women are still held back by certain beliefs. You know, this is what women do in our community. The husband is the head of the family. For instance, I know I'm a lawyer by profession, and I know, for instance, at work, women who would, despite earning, take their whole salary, and the man decides. So I earn, he earns. The money that I earn, he again gives me. This is for her. This is as 3, an advocate. Yes, as an advocate of the High Court. Well, for me, so you see, she's educated. She knows the right. You're supposed to be an advocate of the High Court. You know all the laws, but there's still the belief that the man is the head of the household. So I bring my money. We have a pot. Then he decides, Christine or Faith, 3,000 is for her. I had you mentioning 3,000. 1,000 is for your money, Kia. This is for the household. There are still people who believe in that. So when we talk about empowerment, we have to say, yes, progress has been made, but there's still those.
But is such a person disempowered? If the person willingly takes the money and says, husband, we are a household, here's the money, all right? And now let's say have the conversation about how you're going to divvy up the money. Is that person disempowered?
To some extent they are. Why
How
shouldn't you have the agency to decide how to spend the money that you work for?
You have it, but you've decided to see it.
You've already decided.
Why?
You see, let's go by what you have said.
Yeah.
She earns a salary, then she takes the salary. She takes the salary.
Why is she taking the salary? Because of the norms, the belief for her that she has been brought up that the man decides.
That is you who is deciding that.
No. It's
that person.
It's a belief.
Like you said, this person has gone through school, has gone to Karen, has left Karen, has come to the High Court, has been admitted to the bar. This person is exposed.
It doesn't automatically. Also
this person
it takes time.
Willingly seeds this what you call agency.
It takes time
for some reason.
To somebody to realize that I have the power and I can't make that decision to decide for myself how to spend. It takes time. So at times when we talk about, yes, you're going to school, you're all empowered, there are various levels of empowerment. I was just trying to say that despite that education and the progress that we have made, we are still not there yet. We still need to do much more, realizing that people come from various backgrounds and that the advocacy that we do targets specific social cultural norms, working with the communities, working with the opinion leaders in those communities specifically in order to ensure that, yes, even as communities, it benefits you to ensure that women have this agency so that even if the man, as the head of the household, for instance, is not there, your woman is not disempowered to the point of she cannot make decisions in terms of as a head of a family if you're not there, for instance, you know. So also working with those community leaders, the male champions, to ensure that you can be co-leaders in a family together, and it is beneficial for the family, for you to be having that leadership and the agency to decide the course of this family. It's still a work in progress, Eric. That's what I'll say in brief. I don't know if I'm convincing. You don't look convinced.
No, I'm not. But it's okay.
Me, I'm actually wondering what the problem is here.
Similarly,
yes,
I'm just thinking, because what I understand you to be saying, Christine, is that such a person is disempowered because of their sociocultural upbringing and beliefs that they hold.
Yeah, what is
all right.
normalized, yeah.
Now, at what point do they have the agency to actually make a decision? Do they have Did they decide that they want to be, this is the career they want to take? Did they decide that this is the career they want to practice? Did they decide the job that they want to take up, whether it's private practice or employment? Did they decide the day they want to get up and go to work? Did they decide at what point do they become
no longer
yes
there?
Looking back, in terms of deciding, for us who are a bit older, when, of course, we are growing up, in terms of decision making, for us as children, we did play a lot. Like for me, deciding which course I'm going to do in the university, that was decided by my father.
Yeah.
And when I went to the university, I realized this is not what I want. So I changed my course immediately because I realized this is not what I want.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes we might not decide at early stages, at early ages, but as we continue getting to understand, we have that space to make our own decision and which directions we want to go. So, but for women, looking at the women at the rural setup, when she's talking about bringing everything, the situation has really improved. But we can't say that we are yet there. I can give an example, because for us we work with the rural women, and sometimes we organize for them for trainings, and these trainings maybe could be residential. So you realize we have targeted few women, and some, because we are now going to talk about technology, because that's the theme.
Yep.
They might not own mobile phones, maybe, where we need to reimburse the transport. And if they have, maybe this woman will give the number of the husband. That's where the money is sent. So she doesn't have control, even that small allowance of transport. So she has to send it back to the husband, and who knows whether he's going to refund. So sometimes we can't say we are yet there. There are some who are still not able to make any decision when it comes to benefits like money, what we are just discussing here. Yes.
You know, the negative aspects of social norms are what leads people to desiring and pushing for change. Because sometimes there are certain social understandings, or there are certain social contracts that people have, which they themselves may be fairly comfortable with for whatever reason.
Yes.
Now, us looking from the outside in,
Yes.
you may look at it and think, but
how is that? Okay? How are you okay with this?
This is truly odd, and they're actually very fine with it.
Oh yeah, very
Yes.
okay with it.
If you look at some of the norms that certain communities have, like, let us say, let me be gentler with it, female circumcision, okay? The people who are at the forefront of encouraging and enshrining and ensuring its strength has been women for the longest time. The men play a role, yes, but it's the women. Now, you'd look and wonder, but surely, can they not see some of the harm that some of these practices actually bring about? And what we forget is that you're looking at the harm, but you forget what is associated with social benefits, which is what they see. Now, you may not see it.
Yes.
Who decides those social benefits?
Now, you see, if you didn't participate in that benefit, then you'll consider it a harm.
Yeah.
And if you consider it a harm, at some point, you will resist it. But I'm talking about when there's an absence of adequate resistance to something that you are calling negative, then you have to ask yourself, what is this thing that these people find positive in this?
There's something there, maybe they hold onto it.
Yes.
Which we might not understand.
Yes.
Like now the issue you are discussing about the FGM. There's underlying reasons why it is done. And when you go deeper in discussing with them, the old women will tell you so many advantages of it, which for me, as an outsider, I will not understand, but there is a lot of value attached to that. But because we are looking at it as a negative issue, as a negative norm, they will not come out because they know you are against it. But for them, in their own inner circles, when we are not there, they are advocating for it because they have their own values and on why that practice is important for them. That's why, because we are against it in terms of policy and the government, they are trying. When you go to some of these communities, they are doing it. They are even looking for other ways, avenues of dodging and doing it. Like we are told now, some of them they do when the women get bath, they are giving birth. That's when they do it. And in some communities, they have ceremonies, maybe like a month or so. That's when they do it, when you don't know. So they will look for ways of dodging out and make sure that it is done, because to them, culturally, they have a value on it. And they can give you reasons.
Please go ahead.
Just to supplement what my colleague is saying, but culture, because talking to my colleagues who work on the field of FGM, they're telling me that a lot of trends and progress has been made, especially on the Ma community, practicing communities. So slowly but surely, the community are seeing the harmfulness of it. So if you look at the latest DHS, the progress that has been made in terms of the community practicing FGM in certain communities, they have seen, and the elders and the men who revere, a woman who's been circumcised, and being told about the harm, and the community stance changing to the point of the data, the statistics going down. It has taken a lot of time, but they are slowly but surely coming on board as allies in certain communities. But also the opposite is to what you're saying in other communities, where now to evade the Kenyan law and the stringent rules, they are doing the cross-border FGM. They go across the border to do it where it is acceptable. It is also being done as girls are much younger, and before they are aware, before we can reach them with our awareness so that they can resist. So you find younger and younger girls, so that before you are aware, before we can catch you with our awareness, before you even go to school. And also, as she's saying, for the older women, maybe that you are not circumcised growing up, they catch you at the point of giving birth. So it's a double-edged sword. There's progress on one end, there's still a lot of resistance on the other end, but also saying it takes time for the community to realize that yes, the norms have been there, but it is harmful in such a way, and we are seeing progress, and this is how you can do, and there are alternatives to these ceremonies that you can still perform in to have also respect your communities and whatever you revere and hold dear to yourselves without harming the woman in terms of their health, their productive health and all that. And this slowly but surely they're coming on board.
Let's continue the conversation shortly after we take this break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
We'll continue our conversation on this International Women's Day with Fath Wayua from We Effect and ChristineOkeno from UN Women. The theme for this year is around technology. I know the hashtag is #EmbraceEquity. But what about technology, Fath?
If you know, we have the Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable Development Goal number 5 is about gender equality and empowerment of women. And innovation and technology is one of the targets towards realizing that goal. And this theme for this year is digital innovation and technology, supporting gender equality. And technology and innovation is the way to go in all aspects. And from where I sit, because we work with farmer organizations, we are supporting them in their agricultural activities, for example. So you will not talk about realizing full benefits without technology, without innovation. So I think it's timely because there is a lot. Technology and innovation is contributing towards increasing productivity, for example, for farmers. But again, also there is a lot of challenge when it comes to gender gap in accessing digital innovation and technology in terms of access, where both men and women are different when it comes to access. They cannot have the same access rights. So it's critical to us from where I sit. And there's a lot of progress when it comes to innovation and technology, right from the infrastructure, connectivity, digitization. There's quite much which is contributing a lot to development.
Like you said, at We Effect, you work a lot with farm organizations.
Yes.
All right. So give us what you see when you're working with these organizations in terms of their access to technology and what they're using that technology for. How does it benefit them?
Yes.
and especially focusing on the women in those groups?
Yeah. Our farmer organization, majority are cooperatives who are maybe doing coffee production, marketing, and also export, and also in dairy. And these are some of these enterprises or value chains, cash crops, which you cannot realize benefits without technology. But there's quite a lot they have been able to do to advance, but there are a lot also for challenges when it comes to figuring out do we have the right technology to maximize what we are supposed to, what we want by the end of the day. So as much as they are doing so much in trying to invest in technology and innovation, there are quite a lot of challenges. One, for example, is also we continue advancing, technologies continue to advance. When you look at the coffee factories, for example, majority of these organizations are still using the old machineries, which compromise the quality of the of course the coffee. But if the quality is bad, of course by the end of the day you will not be able to maximize the profits. So as much as they are trying their best, there are many challenges. Production has gone down, and these organizations rely on farmers' sales from the farmers' produce, which has also gone down. So they don't really benefit so much when it comes to trying to catch up with the technology and the right machinery to be able to enjoy benefits in the market. But all the same, still, when you look at how the technology is helping women who are members of this organization, a lot is also being done, although we are not yet there. These farm organizations, they provide space where farmers can, or through support from development partners and other players, a lot of technologies can be demonstrated in those organizations, and the farmers are able to benefit and also adopt those technologies. Majority of the farmers, for example, are faced by challenges of climate change. Adaptation and mitigation is very critical. And for this adaptation and mitigation, we also need to adopt a few of the technologies to be able to probably able to adopt. Like we are talking about green energy solutions, maybe for farmers, which should trickle down at household level for the women also to be able to take advantage of such kind of technologies. When I'm talking of green energy solutions or technologies, there's quite a lot for farmers, for example, where farmers who are in dairy, they are able to benefit from greenhouse technologies, for example, solar technologies for irrigation and things like that. So we are quite much doing a lot, but we still believe there is a lot, and that's why this day is quite important for us probably to talk about it and be able to talk about also the gender gap when it comes to assessing innovation and technology for women and men farmers. Yeah.
I'd like to ask, when we talk about farming, and we reference the participation of women, I'd like to understand what exactly do women do in this farming space, the actual activities that they are involved in. What is it that they do?
Farmers, women farmers generally from the rural setup, they contribute the biggest percent of labor in our farms. They are the ones who are digging, pruning if it's coffee, harvesting and taking this to factories. And also, and you realize in most households in the rural setting, due to rural-urban migration, in most of the households, the spouse, maybe they are in the urban areas looking for green pastures. But the women, most of them are in the farm as well as in the household, taking care of household issues, chores, and also in the farm.
Why ask the question?
But along the value chain, much of their contribution is in the early stages of the value chain, in production, harvesting, and even taking all these harvests to market if they have to take that to the market.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've painted a clear picture, but then I want you to explain further how now appropriate technology would come in to give women the advantage that is necessary, and what this technology is and what it will actually do to bring about the improvement in situation that we're talking about.
Yes, it will depend on what, of course, the kind of engagement or enterprise or farming activities they are doing. If we take off food crops, for example, when we are talking about technology, it starts from what kind of farming inputs they are using. In terms of fertilizers, quality seeds, because right from there, if you use the right seed, because it's part of technology, it will give you a guarantee. For example, if other factors, of course, work well, like rains and all that, at least as you continue growing this crop, you are guaranteed of better produce and better harvest. So at that level, inputs is key. Issues of fertilizer, seeds, and all that, but also the tools, the farming tools which they are using. Of course, with innovation and technology, depending on the farm, there are some who are a bit mechanized. But there are others who are still using the normal, old, traditional kind of technologies. So depending on the kind of technology you are using, that will guarantee the kind of also output you are going to get by the end of the day. When you go further in that value chain, there is also the aspect of post-harvest, handling and harvesting. And if you are not using the right technologies or you are not innovative enough, there is a lot of post-harvest losses, depending on kind of innovation and technologies you are using when you are doing harvesting. A lot of wastage there. But if you're using innovation, for example, like where I come from, we are mango farmers. Right now, there is, of course, the season is ending, but there has been a lot of wastage because there are challenges of market. But if you're having right technologies, there are farmers who are using technologies like having sun dryers, where you are able to, for example, dry the fruits and package them and be able to sell in the market when the supply is not there. Also converting these mangoes to juice and other value addition. So all these has to go hand in hand with technology. And what we do and what we encourage is that because women are involved a lot in this, are they trained? Do they have the skills to understand the kind of technologies we are going to use? This technology is also meeting our needs, and also they taking care of also us, because as you also bring in a technology, you have to consider the needs of women. Don't bring a technology which is also going to affect them in terms of the way they physically they are and biologically they are. Spraying, for example, because at some point they have to use the spraying and the recommended one, but how does it affect the health? Or some machineries, maybe they will need a lot of energy. Do they have this energy also?
Are they strong enough to carry some of this?
Yes.
Or to operate some of the machinery?
Yes. If they are the pumps, do they have the energy to operate that? So you have to consider in every technology you are using and recommending, you have to have women at the center in designing this kind of technology.
The gender lens.
Yes.
When you talk about violence, Christine, you are a specialist on ending, not a specialist on violence. Specialist on ending violence against women and girls. How does technology play here?
For us at UNIM, when we look at technology, first and foremost as an accelerator to achievement of gender equality, we recognize the tremendous growth of adoption of technology. I was looking at latest figures from the UN International Telecommunications Union. As of 2022, 2/3 of the world's population is connected to the internet, and up to 98% have access to mobile telephone connection. But still, as Faith mentioned, there's still that digital gap where despite that enormous growth, for instance, in Africa, only 34% of women are using the internet as against 45% of men. And the interesting thing about the African case is that while other regions like the Arab states and the Asia region has seen growth, for us in the last 3 years, there has been no growth in that statistics. So the gender gap has been stagnant that way for the last 3 or so years, for whatever reason. But I am not able to go into details.
Growth in use, not access.
In use, use internet usage, and we do know for a UNESCO report that they were projecting that by 2050, about 75% of jobs are going to be digital. So if we are having that slow uptake, first of all, in Africa, and also the gap is still existing as it has in the last 3 years, what does it mean for the African woman in particular? It means by and large, they're going to be left out of these lucrative jobs. We have seen the opportunities that exist in the internet space. We are seeing the e-citizen services.
Yes.
So if only 34% of the African woman can access that, imagine a simple thing like applying for your ID, Huduma number, all those simple services we have there in the e-citizen. About over 70% are locked out of that. We have online learning and distance learning opportunities that we saw with the COVID coming in. The growth that took and the trajectory that took. Still we'll have that population being left behind. We saw services like online and virtual courts. The courts were able to continue offering critical services. But what about those who are not connected to... First of all, they did not have mobile phones and were not connected to the internet. How are they left behind in terms of accessing this critical space? And we've seen the kind of job that exists currently, content creation, the podcasting, the influencing, and all those kind of things. If we have the women and girls not even having the basics in terms of telephone use and internet use, definitely they're then being the less... beneficiaries of this kind of growth. But on the flip side also, with the growth of technology and internet, we are seeing that the violence is shifting online. What does it mean? It does not mean that the physical violence that has been there has stopped, but by and large, it has moved online for various reasons. The anonymity that the online space offers, you're being harassed, you're being bullied. And this specifically, especially in the last 2 years because of COVID, and last year it was specifically bad because during the election. Last year I was working on a program on elections, specifically targeting in support to ending violence, electoral GBV, gender-based violence. And let me tell you, Eric, if you speak to any female politician, even last year when we were having the 16 days of activism, from the highest level of a politician to the MCA level, no one was spared in terms of the online attacks, the misinformation, the harassment, and it was bad. It was really, really bad. And you look at it in terms of, first of all, they'll tell you why there's anonymity. In Kenya, we call it pseudo accounts. You don't even know who is insulting. You don't know who is the proper spreading this propaganda, but it is taken as reality. You know how it spread like wildfire. It comes from, is it Facebook or wherever? We have it on our WhatsApp group, the Telegram groups, publicized all over. Blogs pick it up, and there are also the issues of paid bloggers that are being paid to spread that misinformation and disinformation and just harass maybe an opponent. And then also a lot of the people who are being harassed will say, you report. The authorities trivialize it. And particularly if you are a woman, in terms of violence, online violence, there are certain categories of women who are more targeted than others. Women in the public sphere, women politicians specifically, female journalists, surprisingly, are up to globally, the statistics from UN says about 75% of women journalists have experienced some form of online violence. And also the women human rights defenders. These are people who fight for women's rights and are very active and use the online space for advocacy and awareness and stuff. They are also targets. So first of all, when you report, they say, if you even have the energy to report, because first of all, some people think, it was an online thing. So I was not physically cut or harm. So you, as the person suffering, you might not even know it is a crime to report, first and foremost. For those who know, you're asked, but you're a politician, what did you expect? It is normalized and taken as part and parcel of what you signed up for.
For the cause.
In fact, I need to ask, when you did your research, did you find that the women who are involved in politics faced more attacks and more insults than the men? Or was it...
Yes, the research says about 28% of women as compared to, I did not, the men were much less, but also I've spoke with male politicians. The funny thing is a few of them will tell you, I will not mention the governor, but he says, my social media person handles that. I don't even interact with my posts. So even the violence is so vicious that even somebody who is well-established as a governor says they post, but they don't read the comments. Like, I'm sorry, I'll post this, my social media person, but I'm also scared of the attacks. But you see the opportunity to interact with their constituents, you're losing that because you know how social media is very interactive. You get your constituents there, the young people are there. But if somebody, because of the kind of attacks and the viciousness that Kenyans have on the internet, is scared to even read their own comments in their own page, and they blatantly tell you it's because of the kind of attacks, we also lose out as in terms of communicating with our leaders and escalating issues because of the kind of army. You know how Kenyans are proud of being at the KOT army? We are very proud in saying, I remember when the 5th president was in and people are like, we are waiting for him to just do something and we chase him out of Twitter like we chased the former president, the 4th. And it's something that Kenyans will proudly say on the internet, like it's a badge of honor that they kicked out their former president out of Twitter, and they're just waiting for the 5th to also make some moves and they'll ensure they bully him out of Twitter. And you see such kind of normalization even makes, now you can imagine now for a younger, if you can kick a president out of such platforms, imagine an MCA or a student leader.
Consider you have leaders who actually have social media individuals who are in charge, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've seen the need for it. For them to block, they have read, they have an idea what goes on there.
Yeah.
And they have employed. So essentially, they're fueling that particular. Now, that particular activity. Now, if our political space, it has been understood that you must get bloggers, you must get people who engage in this. When you say it's normalized, then it means it points not so much to a specific attack on women, but it's a degradation of our values and a perspective that we have had. It's just that women are getting the wrong end of the stick.
True, because it is a reflection of what is happening in the normal, let me not call it normal GBV, but the what is happening, like in terms of physical, sexual, it is translating online. So the same way that the women and the girls are bearing the brunt of the rape, the defilement, the harassment in the workplace, or is it in the public space, in the matatus, it continues online now,
just as viciously,
just because, and they have more protection because I can have a pseudo account,
and then it's also seen
it's
by
anonymous.
More
people are seeing it, so it is just a continuum. And also the women are also saying it doesn't stop online because due to certain things. I was here yesterday, I learned about a word called doxing, where somebody displays your information. Maybe they're insulting you online, but they can do some things and find out Eric lives in such and such a place in this house number. So that violence, after attacking you online, people can actually get where you work, you drive this car number, and they actually physically
harm you.
Yeah.
This is an interesting conversation, but we thank you very much, ladies, for joining us and for having this conversation with us.